I This should be about probably about 3, 4 videos because it's quite long. I'm going to break it down to shorter videos. Um, just a quick one. Fair use for educational purposes. Although that only applies to the person. I'm not a person. I'm a man. I'm an individual. 32 tips for navigating a society full of propaganda and manipulation. For as long as there has been human language, humans have been using it to manipulate one another. The fact that it is possible to skillfully weave a collection of symbolic mouth noises together in such a way to extract favours, concessions, votes, and consent from other humans has made manipulation so common that it now pervades our society from top to bottom, from personal relationships between two people to international relationships between government agencies and the public. This has made it very difficult to figure out what's going on, both in our lives and in the world. Here are 32 suggestions for navigating this complex manipulation-laden landscape, whether it be for navigating the manipulations you may encounter in your small-scale personal interactions or the large-scale manipulations which impact the entire world. Understand the fact that humans are storytelling animals, and that whoever controls the stories controls the humans. Mental narrative dominates human consciousness, though thought is essentially one continuous churning monologue about the self and what it reckons is going on in its world. And that monologue is composed entirely of mental stories. These stories can and will be manipulated on an individual scale by people we encounter and on a mass scale by skillful propagandists. We base our actions on our mental assessments of what's going on in the world, and those mental assessments can be manipulated by narrative control. And the individual that wrote this, Caitlin Johnston, says society is made of narrative. Realizing this is awakening from the matrix. This is the clearest I've been able to sum it all up so far. Be humble and open enough that you can be fooled. Yeah? So be humble and open enough to know that you can be fooled. Should I say, sorry. Your cognitive wiring is susceptible. The same hacks as everyone else. And manipulators of all sorts are always looking to exploit those vulnerabilities. It's not shameful to be deceived. It's shameful to deceive people. Don't let shame and cognitive dissonance keep you compartmentalized away from considering the possibility that you've been duped in some way. Watch people's behaviour and ignore the stories they tell about their behaviour. This applies to people in your life, to politicians and to governments. Narratives can be easily manipulated and distorted in many different ways. While behaviour itself, when examined with as much objectivity as possible, cannot be. Pay attention to behaviour in this way, and eventually you'll start noticing a large gap between what some people's actions say and what their words say. Those people are the manipulators. Distrust them. Be suspicious of people who keep telling you that they are, telling you what they are and how they are, because they are trying to manipulate your narrative about them. Be doubly suspicious of people who keep telling you what you are and how you are, because they are trying to manipulate your narrative about you. Learn to see how trust and sympathy are used by manipulators to trick people into subscribing to their narratives about what's going on. Every manipulator uses trust and or sympathy as a primer for their manipulations. Because if you don't have trust or sympathy for them, you are not going to mentally subscribe to their stories. This is true of mass media outlets. It's true of State Department press releases which implore you to have sympathy for the people of Nation X. And it's true of family members and co-workers. Once you have spotted a manipulator, your task is to kill off all of your sympathy for them and your trust in them, no matter how hard they start playing the victim to suck you back in. Be suspicious of anyone who refuses to articulate themselves clearly. Word salading is a tactic notoriously used by abusive narcissists because it keeps the victim confused and unable to figure out what's going on. If they can't get a clear handle on what the manipulative abuser is saying, they can't form their own solid position in relation to it, and the abuser knows this. Insist on lucid communication, and if it's refused to you, remove trust and sympathy. Apply this to people in your life, to government officials, and to and propaganda constructs. Familiarize yourself with cognitive biases, the glitches in human cognition which cause us to perceive things in a way that is not rational. Pay special attention to confirmation bias and backfire effect and the illusory truth effect. Humans have an annoying tendency to seek out cognitive ease in their information gathering and avoid cognitive dissonance, rather than seeking out what's true regardless of whether it brings us cognitive ease or dissonance. This means we tend to choose what we believe based on whether believing it is psychologically comfortable, rather than whether it's solidly backed by facts and evidence. This is a weakness in our cognitive wiring, and manipulators can and do exploit it constantly. And again, be humble enough to know that this means you and me. It means everybody. I'm going to go number 8 in the next one because it's going to get a bit long now. Okay, thank you. Bye.